Hello and welcome to the third video in this series on Chapter 9 of Government in America. We're still focusing on campaigns and voting behavior. Uh, at the end of the last video, we talked about the invisible primary, which is the period of time during which people announce that they're running for the presidential nomination of their party, but there aren't any primaries or caucuses going on, so there's no voting. And one of the big things that happens during the invisible primary is people raise money. And the candidates who are able to generate a lot of money are considered to be in good shape, and they kind of continue to get more support. The candidates who have trouble raising money tend to be perceived as the losers of the invisible primary, and they tend to drop out. So if money is such a big deal, and money is how you show that you're a serious candidate with a serious chance, let's talk about where the money comes from, but let's also talk about why it's so important. What does the money buy? And the biggest thing that the money buys is advertising. People especially in a presidential campaign, you cannot shake hands in all 50 states. So you need advertising to get your name out, to get people to know who you are and why they should vote for you, and just as importantly, why you should not vote for their opponents. So the the major campaign expenditures for ads are television ads, which is getting kind of interesting because fewer people are watching live TV in order to see the commercials. So, with people using streaming services or DVRs where they fast forward the commercials, it's kind of interesting to see whether candidates are still willing to spend that money on TV ads. Direct mail, which is, printed material that gets mailed directly to people's homes. There's a lot of that that goes on. Envelopes, pamphlets, requests for donations, things like that. Now, a lot of people just put that stuff straight into the recycling bin, but the people that do respond to it put in more money and, possibly become voters. We're also seeing now the internet is where you can see a lot of ads, whether that's, sponsored ads on news and politics sites, or ads on Facebook and Twitter that are supposed to pop up in your in your social media feeds. The ad game is moving online. Now, I shouldn't say that ads are the only thing that candidates spend money for. They have to travel from place to place, so you've got to be able to pay for travel and for lodging. You have staff, you have some volunteers, but you also have professional campaign staff who work on elections for a living that you have to hire in order for them to help you do your job. So you need money to pay for them. And then there are just sort of day-to-day, office space, office supplies, all those sorts of things that you need. But what makes the campaigns so expensive, to the point where tens and even hundreds of millions of dollars are being spent, is the advertising. So where exactly does this money come from? Now, some of it comes from what are called small donors, people who donate $25, $50, or a couple $100 to candidates. It's easier to get the small donors in now that we have the internet. Before, small donors usually were solicited by direct mail. So you'd send out envelopes to a bunch of people, hope that they opened it, read the letter, decided that they wanted to support you, wrote a check, put the check in the mail, etc. Now you can just have an ad on the web, people click on it, type in their credit card information, bam, they donate. Or they get an email, and the email says, hey, can you please help me out? We've got this big campaign, we need you to donate money. And people click on a link and donate the money. So those are small donors, and they're important. Barack Obama, in particular, raised a lot of money from small donors, and uh, that put him in position where he was able to challenge Hillary Clinton. And then when Hillary Clinton looked like she was in trouble, um, small donors came through and went to her website and gave her a lot of money back in 2008, so that she was able to keep the campaign going as well. But uh, as important as small donors are, the big donors who can write checks for thousands of dollars uh, or more, as we're going to talk about, they're really important. Now, if you want to donate directly to a candidate and to that candidate's campaign so that the candidate gets to decide, I want to spend this money to hire this person or to make this ad or to go visit that state, you can do that. That's a campaign contribution. Uh, but there are limits on how much any person can give to a specific campaign. Now, these limits are adjusted for inflation, and I'm not 100% sure right now what the 2016 limit is, but it's somewhere around $2,200 per candidate. Now, those direct campaign contributions are incredibly valuable to campaigns because the candidate and his or her campaign get to control it. But it's limited. So if I want to write a $10,000 check, I can't do it as a direct campaign contribution. So does that mean that wealthy people who want to donate thousands of dollars just say, oh, well, guess I can only donate a couple thousand? No. They find someplace else to put the money. And that process is, or that system is called the independent expenditures system. Independent expenditures are any money that's spent on a campaign other than directly from the candidates themselves. Groups or people or organizations or whatnot will spend money to try and promote a particular idea or even a particular candidate in a campaign without any coordination or say-so from the candidate themselves. Now, one type of independent expenditure is called a PAC, a political action committee. They are able to raise money to support both candidates and causes. So you could have a political action committee that's devoted to environmental causes and supporting candidates and promoting the idea of the environment. Or you could have a PAC that's devoted to energy companies wanting to drill for more oil and gas and promoting candidates who support that and that idea. They can make limited donations to candidates, but they can also buy ads or do mailings or other things on their own. So you've got the PACs as one type of independent expenditure. Then you have the political party organizations. The political parties, the Democrats, the Republicans, and also the third parties, they can receive contributions from people that are not supposed to be spent on any one candidate, but they're used for overall party building, promoting the image of the Democrats or the Republicans, creating lists of Republican or Democratic supporters, things like that. This money that goes to support the political parties is called soft money because it wasn't subject to the hard limits that the campaign contributions were. Soft money and money to the parties has been limited a little bit in recent times, but there are new groups that have come in to replace them. And I apologize, there's a little bit of an alphabet number soup coming up, so we'll try and sort through it all. You have 527 groups. These are named after the part of the election law that sets them up. It's like Article or Section 527, so that's where the name comes from. These are groups whose sole function is to be involved with politics, to promote candidates or causes. They can receive unlimited contributions and spend money as much as they like when they like. because the Supreme Court has said that spending money to promote an idea is free speech, and that free speech is protected by the First Amendment, so the government cannot set spending limits or things like that. So if I'm a wealthy donor and I want to promote a particular idea, I could donate to a 527. Or, alternately, I could donate to a 501c group, named after another section of the law. 501c groups are not-for-profit organizations, so they don't pay taxes. They are not specifically organized around politics. They spend half of their money or less on politics and the rest on education and general promotion of an issue. The National Rifle Association, for example, is considered one of these groups. They don't only get involved with elections; they also do, other things to try and promote their ideas about gun ownership and so on. Now, people can contribute to a 501c organization and not reveal who they are. This is important. In order to try and keep people from trying to pull strings behind the scenes, election law says that if you donate to a campaign or to a PAC, you have to declare it. So there are databases. You could go search for them right now on the internet and see how much money certain people have donated to certain candidates. But 501cs, because they're not specifically about politics, they get to be anonymous. And the donors get to be anonymous. So people are able to support causes without it necessarily becoming public. Okay. Now, on top of the 501cs, we've had a new entry into the field called super PACs, which are not PACs from the planet Krypton, but they don't donate any money to candidates. They only make independent expenditures. And because they only make independent expenditures, then there are no limits on the amount of money that people can donate to a super PAC. People can write checks for $10,000, $100,000, whatever they want, as long as that super PAC doesn't directly contribute to a candidate. Now, what this means is wealthy supporters of a candidate are able to pump up a super PAC with millions of dollars. If you've just got a small handful of wealthy supporters, they can create a super PAC that's got a ton of money, way more money than your campaign has. So we're starting to see the super PACs be bigger than the actual campaigns. In 2016, Jeb Bush, who's running for the Republican nomination for president, is a big example of this. He has a super PAC that's raised something like $100 million, which is more than the official Jeb Bush campaign has raised because, there aren't any limits on who contributes to a super PAC. The only restriction is that Jeb Bush can't tell the super PAC what it wants to do. So campaigns have figured out ways to drop hints, but they can't specifically say, hey, we would really love to run some ads in Iowa right now. And so that's the super PAC has to kind of figure out what's good for the candidate that it supports without hearing from the candidate himself or herself. Now, you may be asking about all of this money and if there's anything we can do to reduce it. The problem is the Federal Election Commission tries to set rules, but it doesn't have a lot of power to penalize people. So you could break a rule and then have to pay a fine 4 years later. Not a lot of incentive. There was a law called the McCain-Feingold law that tried to set limits, but then the Supreme Court said, hey, a lot of those limits won't work because you're limiting people's speech. So at the moment, it's very hard to limit the amount of money that's going into campaigns. It continues to be a multi-million-dollar affair. With that, we'll hold off for now, and then we'll come back in the next video. I leave you with these questions for further thought and discussion.